The Honourable Brian Walker.
Thank you, President. And thank you to the Honourable Ayor Makor-Chuat for that very moving statement. And I would recommend that we all pay attention to these words. They refer to the morality of our growing youngsters and what happens, the terrible things that are happening in our communities, not just in the African community as well. Because this also, what I want to read out here, is also refers to the morality of what's happening in Perth just now. Now, I was going to speak about Karrakatta and the Metropolitan Cemeteries Board there. But the Geraldton Guardian reported just a few days ago vandalism of headstones in Geraldton Cemetery. And the senior sergeant there described that as disrespectful behaviour that would not be tolerated. We have a common ground here, morality and respect for all. And I wanted to go on and then speak about a war hero from the First World War. The Post newspaper, for the sake of Hansard, that's the 19th of March 2022. I've spoken about the Karrakatta Cemetery and the renewal programme, the so-called renewal programme before. But Bonnie Christian covered a story, and I'm going to read some of this into to the record, because it is meaningful, because the headline is War Hero's Family Denied Headstone. Now, I'll read this in. The family of a decorated World War I hero is being refused a replacement granite headstone at Karrakatta Cemetery that was removed without their knowledge. I think it's a shocking thing to do, to steal the headstone and shave it, Arthur Haynes' granddaughter, Rosa Walden, said. To think they would be so sneaky and to use the granite for another person, that's just rude, it's insulting. Arthur's official AIF headstone was found by chance in Midland last year by Claremont resident Gavin Wilkinson. It had been removed from his gravesite as part of the Metropolitan Cemeteries Board renewal programme. After a protracted fight to have it reinstated, the MCB this month agreed it could be returned to his gravesite. But the headstone would have to be provided by the Office of Australian War Graves, which has said the granite originally used was no longer available. It has advised the family and the post a plaque or plinth commemoration can be provided instead. Mr Wilkinson said the Office of Australian War Graves had refused to tell him and the Claremont RSL, which is acting on behalf of families of soldiers whose headstones were removed, where their granite headstones were being kept. After he located 18 of them, he found the headstones' inscriptions were shaved off for reuse. Now, Arthur is commemorated with a brass wall plaque, but his final resting place is unmarked and grassed over. There's nothing to say where Arthur is. It's devastating, Miss Walden said. We want a like-for-like replacement. Miss Walden said 10 years ago she took her mum to visit the site and they wandered around and around but could not find it. It was not until Mr Wilkinson called her that she found out what had happened. Now, let's think about this for a moment. We're talking about morality. They were promised in 1922 that this would be forever an eternal sort of memory to those who gave their lives in a terrible war, not knowing, of course, that World War II would come along as well. But they gave all. And they're committed to retain this. They then engaged in a protracted fight with the grieving family before conceding, and then returning a gravestone which couldn't be used and no replacement for it, and no place to actually see where he's been buried. So it's actually shocking disrespect. We're talking about respect in the community, disrespect being shown to the elders of our community. So I'm going to read in what the Post wrote here as a way of memorialising at least one of our heroes. Arthur was a farmer when in 1916 he responded to the call to serve with the AIF 11th Battalion leaving Fremantle for the Western Front. And I'll interject here. I visited the Anzac Museum in Albany, and a wonderful place. If anyone has not yet visited, do please. It's a place where we can actually really learn about what happened to those who went before and what they went through. It's amazing. Serving in France with the 4th Machine Gun Company, he was awarded the Military Medal in 1917 for bravery in the field while under enemy fire at Bulcourt. He was a gutsy, honourable man, Miss Walden said. He married Augusta Matilda Pine in Wales after the war, returned to Australia. He suffered the effects of war, including being gassed. He died at Peppermint Grove at what is now the Royal Freshwater Bay Yacht Club, then a hostel for severely disabled World War I soldiers. Arthur was awarded an official war grave, but in 1999 his grave was renewed by the MCB. That is, despite the board in 1922 giving an undertaking to the Australian government to maintain these war graves for all time. I just feel it's very insulting, Ms Walden said. He went to the war and he gave up a lot to do that, and he ended up dying from war causes. I can't speak lowly enough about what's happened. Oh, neither can I, members. If that was one of your family, what would you think? Is this how we, from the very top to the very bottom of society, treat each other? Have we a lesson that we could learn here as members of Parliament? Should we be working to change the way people feel, the respect we show for each other? It's a moral question, a very difficult question. You can't legislate for that, but we can lead. The Military Medal was one of the highest medals awarded to non-commissioned personnel during 2 world wars for acts of gallantry and to duty under fire. To treat them treated so shabbily, I think, is just dishonourable. And I bring this to our attention and hope that we can lead the way, be a light to our community, that such morals not be tolerated. I spoke earlier about the mental health affecting the passing of my son, and to the wide variety of mental health disease in our community. And part of that, surely, is the respect with which we treat people who are not faring as well. This goes all through our society, and we ought to take this seriously in every aspect where we face it.